Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call the City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, July 15, 2020 to order. At this time, as we get ready to have a moment of silence, I'd ask everyone to please think about the young Breasia and her family, and that our prayers are with them. Moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. Alderwoman McGinnis, if you'd be kind enough to lead us in the pledge. Thank you. Brian, if you'd be kind enough to call the roll.
Dunn.
Here.
Dorman.
Here.
McGinnis.
Here.
Lee.
They say they can't hear. Miss Lee or Miss Dickman, can you hear us now? I'm reading on the chat that they can't hear. We'll pause a second. We're going to disconnect and then restart the session, just so you guys know. I'll tell them here on the chat. So Brian, if you want to continue, we'll get them when we get them.
Okay. Grip. Here. Condon.
Here?
Peacock. Here. Dickman.
She says she's good.
Okay. Here. Oh, Jobson.
Here.
Ambrose. Here. And I'll try Lee one more time.
Here.
Perfect. 10 present, Your Honor.
Roger that. Okay, good. We're all communicating now. Thank you very much. All right, so the Committee of the Whole, just remember, if you have cell phones or whatever, put them on silent or turn them off so they don't get in the way of what we're doing. Ask that you guys respect us, we'll respect you. Please talk to us as a body, not any one individual member. And remember, you're talking to everybody in Davenport and fellow Quad Cityans, so we respectfully ask you to give your comments. If it's an agenda item, 5 minutes. Other times, you please just state your business. And if you could be kind enough to tell us your name and where you're from, we'd appreciate that. So thank you. Ms. Spiegel, City Administrator, is there any update? I think there is this evening.
Yes, Mayor and Council, Chief Sikorsky and I talked before the meeting. He had asked to be able to give you an update on the current status of the Breasia Terrell case and where we're at. And as he's heading up, I would like to say, having spent a lot of time with our officers the past several days, and all of the agencies from around the state and our federal agencies that are here assisting our law enforcement efforts right now, we're really appreciative of the partnership we have from all levels of government.
So I appreciate the opportunity. I did ask the city administrator if I could maybe just to address you really quick, just to let you know everything that's going on right now. I certainly am not going to get into everything we've done over the last 5 days, but here's where we are right now. Right now, we have a HISN room, an intelligence room set up as a command post at the Davenport Police Department that is occupied by Davenport Police staff. There is DCI, so the state police are in there. We have CAST members in there, which is the FBI task force that is working for us. We have a coordinated search party that's out now, coordinating with other agencies in a different county, searching an area. Right now, we're working with the FBI. The CAST team members from FBI are relaying information from our case to behavioral analysis unit from the FBI. The Scott County Sheriff's Department has been with us from the start on this, all 5 days. This has been our priority as an agency for the last 5 days. As soon as we learned that Breasia was gone missing, it has been our #1 priority, and it will continue to be until we find her. We're coordinating with many different agencies, and one of the things I will apologize to you for is I would really love to give you every piece of information that we have. I can't do that, and I apologize for that. I apologize to the community for that because I know everybody wants to know what we're doing. Are we doing enough? I'm telling you that we're doing everything possible that we can do. And we're getting great cooperation from our partners, law enforcement partners, but not just law enforcement partners, city partners, federal partners, and the community has been absolutely amazing. One of the most difficult things that I have found from this is how to coordinate that community effort. That has been difficult on our part. But we're going to tomorrow, the EMA is going to help us with the coordination of volunteers when we have specific areas that we need help searching. We just had about 50 people up in an area searching that as well. So we have a lot of things going on in the investigation part. Early this morning, so very late last night, more information was developed, which caused us to not then have the ability, the criteria were met to issue an Amber Alert. We didn't have all of the 5 criteria initially to actually have that alert set by the state. Those are state rules, not ours. So we did have, last night we gathered more information that put us over the edge. We actually got on the phone with some board members from Amber Alert, and that was issued last night. There was some kind of an administrative thing that happened at the state where it, I think, got discontinued and then it was recontinued. Whatever the case may be, it was never in our minds or the state, the state public safety ever turned off. So there was some kind of a administrative snafu with that. But we're continuing to work on it. We have been and we will continue to be in very close contact, daily contact with Briaja's mom. We have been from the first day. We have people in contact with her. We talked to her today. So we will continue to do that as well. I will try to keep you as updated as I can. I would ask you, if you have any questions for me specifically, ask me. I'll tell you if I can. I will answer the questions if I can. If it doesn't impede the investigation, I will absolutely tell you. Corey sat in the Hizen room with us today for the greater part of the day just to see how this thing works and to help with some different assets as well. So we greatly appreciate that. I think she has an understanding of what goes on in there. So I did want to take this opportunity just to brief you all, to tell you where we were at and where this is on our priority list. So thank you. Again, if you have any specific questions, I can certainly answer them.
Well, Chief, we'll catch you during petitions and communications. Okay. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Spiegel? Okay, we have 3 public hearings, 2 in Public Works and 1 in Finance. Public Works, there's 2. Alderman Dunn, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Open the first public hearing on the plan specification, form of contract, and estimated cost for the FY21 contract milling program. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. This public hearing is closed. I open the second public hearing regarding updates to the transit system, including the following: reducing Saturday bus fares to 50 cents, improving Saturday service connections, offering on-demand Sunday service from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. to those with a 30-day pass traveling to employment, and eliminating regular route Sunday service. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this public hearing? Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. This public hearing is closed, and back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And just an administrative note, if anybody is here for that public hearing and anybody rode the bus, Riverbend Transit will be here at 6:30 p.m. to take people home if they need to. So 6:30 p.m. if you need a ride. And thank you, Ms. Gleason, for making sure that's squared away. One more public hearing under Finance. Alderman Condon, please.
I hereby open the public hearing for proposal to enter into the State Revolving Fund Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $9 million. Is there anyone from the public that would like to discuss this item? Hereby close this public. I'm sorry. Is there a motion to close this public hearing? Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you. This closes this public hearing.
Thank you, Alderman Condon. Now we'll go to petitions and communications. I have one, and then I'll go to my colleagues. So we've been getting a lot of feedback from community members and leaders of organizations concerning some of the things they want us to talk about and improve on. So one thing you'll hear very shortly, we're going to have an enhanced communication strategy. One of the themes I keep hearing is hiring and bringing more folks into our city government, different departments. So our communication strategy is going to be enhanced, and we're going to work with folks on workshops and the processes and ask for a partnership to guide and mentor and coach folks to come to the city of Davenport for employment. And Ms. Mallory, our HR director, Ms. Spiegel, our city administrator, and all of those folks, we've had a lot of good conversations, and you're gonna see that and more information I'll put out on a public service announcement shortly, that this hiring thing is serious by us, and we're gonna develop some more strategies to help with that. But this is a partnership. We need folks to help find folks to bring them to us to help with that. But you'll see some tools we're going to provide to give you more information. So thank you. I see Alderman Dorman.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to just thanks really to our entire NETS unit within our police department. They were courteous enough to allow me to do a ride and drive on Monday, and it was an awesome experience just seeing what they do and how they're here to help our community. And then also at the same time, right now, unfortunately, due to coronavirus, they're not doing ride and drives with the general public. But once that opens back up, I highly encourage anyone to reach out and have that experience. It's definitely one that is worthwhile spending a couple hours with them. Secondly, I'd like to invite everyone to my 5th Ward meeting that will be coming up this next Tuesday, July 21st at 6:30. It's going to be right here in the chamber halls. We did this last time, and it allows us to stream the meeting via our streaming service, but then you can also come here in person, and we have plenty of room to socially distance. So we'll have Amy Grosskopf with the library here to tell us all things about the library and some of the same items I'm sure that was shared at Marion's this past week as well. So please come if you're able, and hope to see you there. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Dorman. Alderwoman Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to go, I have two things. I'd like to go back to what you were saying earlier and reinforce how important retention, training, support, and having people in leadership positions. So I guess my question is, I'd like to see you work on a process and on a series of metrics for getting those folks into city government. I think it's really important. So I have that, and I'd also like to say that cases of COVID-19 are spiking, not an uptick. It's a spike in Scott County. The hospitals are being they're just about at capacity for ICU, and the average age has gone from the 60s down to the 20s. So it's really important that everyone, including our young people, take the appropriate actions of 6 feet, wearing a mask at all times, because we're also getting a substantial amount of infections by asymptomatic people. So even if you don't think you're sick, you may still be spreading it if you have picked up the infection. So I just wanted to reinforce that. And masks and distancing are a big part of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderwoman Lee. Alderwoman Dickman.
Chief, if you could come back up for a quick second and just talk about if there's directives specifically for the public. Is it still that they're being asked to self-organize, or if there's any other directives in the way that the public can best assist with the search. Thank you.
Yep, as far as the search goes, tomorrow, our communications team is going to be putting out some information for to coordinate, that EMA is going to coordinate the search for volunteers and the community to help with. So we're going to be putting that information out. They can check both the city and the police department's Facebook and website. We'll put that information out of who that contact person is so they can coordinate those specific searches and the communication as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dickman. Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just wanted to do a quick census update tonight. Thanks to everyone in the media who came out. We had a news conference on Monday, and Kurt Allmeyer did a great job of organizing it. And we had a lot of people there. Just talking about, we're kind of at the midterm. It was a midterm update with the new schedule going to October 31st. We're kind of now in the middle of the census, which never seems to end for me, but we're at the middle of it instead of sort of the end, and that's good news because we still have a ways to go. I will tell you, this map was, I updated this map today, and I hadn't done this map in this format in a couple of weeks. So I can, looking 2 weeks apart from what happened the last time, and the things in parentheses is the growth or lack of it. But it's going very slowly. Nationally, if you do 0.1% a week, you're doing great guns. And this is from 2 weeks ago. So overall, the U.S. grew by 0.1%. Iowa was flat at 68.1%. With where it was 2 weeks ago. The state is number 4 in the country, tied with Nebraska now. Nebraska wasn't in the hunt, and now they're kind of there. Scott County was up 0.1%, and Davenport was up 0.1%. So given that the state is flat, it's pretty, it's looking pretty good. And again, our city final, we're at 66%. This is the self-reported rate, or self-reporting rate, which is all we have right now. And that we're looking, the city final in 2010 was 71%. And then we have until the end of October for self-reporting. We still have census tracts in the core of our city that are underperforming. A lot of dark blue and dark blue tracts, and that's great. But we're still slow. Census tract 109 was flat with where it was 2 weeks ago, which means they're not recording any additional reporting or anybody doing their census there. Census tract 114 had a 0.2%, so that's great. That's that 0.1% per week that we're looking for. And census tracts 106 and 107, 106 was 0.1%. It's almost going to be turning pale yellow soon, hopefully. We got to get 0.3% more done. And then 107 is still flat with 2 weeks ago. So I just, one of the things I wanted to say was, certainly from a standpoint of our economic well-being of our community, the money in people's pockets, because a lot of people have not been able to work or they've been out of work. They've had maybe higher insurance costs. Some people have lost insurance. So there are going to be a lot of economic programs that are going to be tied to economic recovery of our community. And I don't just mean from a business standpoint. And we're really going to need all the people counted because I'm sure that's going to be based on census numbers. So I want to stress that point. If you live in these census tracts, which kind of border Gaines over to about Bridge and go up to Locust, if you live in any of these census tracts and you have an idea, our committee is continuing to work, let me know. We will try to do what we can to help. But get in touch with me if you have some ideas of some sort of outreach, a call out to special groups, of people that you have a phone list for, anything like that, we will certainly try to help and help coordinate that. So we really want to get these numbers moving. There will be a postcard that will come out to everybody. Starting next week, it will be mailed from the U.S. Census, people who haven't responded. And the first week in August, those folks are going to come knocking on the doors of people who haven't, and they will come back. You must do the census. It is the law. So I hope everybody will do that and help friends and neighbors who may be a little slow to do it or worried about doing it. It's very easy to do online. So that's it tonight, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman McGinnis. Alderman Peacock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I greatly appreciate it. What I would like to do, and every time I see Marion, I always want to tell you face to face all the great work you're doing with the census, and I greatly appreciate it. If you need my assistance with the census, please just let me know. Nicole Gleason of Public Works, I wanted to express to you and to your whole entire staff my appreciation of what you're doing throughout the city, but particularly the 7th Ward. I know there's a lot of road projects going on, and I would just ask that the city staff continue to maintain and get a overwatch of what's going on, because some of the projects we have, they get complaints that I don't know if we're still doing the split crew thing, but there's some crews that are just not showing up at certain locations, so, and some of the residents are concerned. But first and foremost, your team is doing an outstanding job, and hopefully we can get some type of report or status on what all these road projects and where we are, particularly in the 7th Ward. Chief, can you come back up, please? I want to publicly thank Corey Spiegel, and I can't think of the officer name from the other day, but what was that? Kevin Smith. So let me publicly tell you, and everybody sitting on the council, my perceptions on what's going on within the city, and particularly to Brezia's disappearance. And I'm coming from a professional standpoint, not getting into the details of anything, but we're talking about perception. Yesterday I had an opportunity to try to manage expectations, I like to call it. But however, there's a perception problem that we have in the city, and I hope we can address this now. And the perception is, and I said it yesterday, the perception is that if a young white girl goes missing, the whole city seems to go on lockdown. Everybody and their mother seems to care. And I said this yesterday in front of everybody. But when a young black girl is missing, it seems as though no one cares. So what I'm asking is, what can we do to better paint the picture that yes, we are doing the best we can as a city, and what would you tell the people, not only people in the city, but to that family, we are trying our best as a city.
Yeah, and I will tell you that I understand that perception, because it's really hard. Emotions are running high. We all want, the one goal is to find Breasia. I mean, that is it, and I understand that people, when they don't hear all the things that are being done behind the scenes, it can seem like maybe not enough is being done, or we're not doing enough. I can assure you that Breasia is our #1 priority as an agency. Yes, we have to still go out and handle 911 calls as an agency, but we have had resources since the day that we knew that she was missing. Every single day we've had as many resources that we have on that. Our whole detective bureau investigators have been working tirelessly throughout the days and nights, and we have been coordinating specific searches, intelligence-led searches, but also those behind the scenes, Alderman Peacock, with technology, using our FBI partners, using our state partners, which have been incredible, and just to hear the investigative portion, the bantering going back and forth between our state partners that are down here helping us and the federal partners with our investigators, of just the possibilities and us then following up on those possibilities. We're using all of the assets we have available to this city and beyond. We have great relationships outside of this city, and we have all of them in working on this with us. The one thing, again, and I told you earlier this evening, that I wish I could do is communicate more about what is being done. Unfortunately, we can't communicate everything. We just don't want some of the things that we're doing to, if we get that information out to the public and into the media, we don't want that to compromise the investigation of this. We won't stop searching for her. She is our priority. We will continue to investigate, and our assets will be here as well. We have, again, have been in contact with Breacia's mom. We have not been able to have one-on-one contact with all of Breacia's family. But we are in contact with mom every single day, and we have been today as well. One of the things that we are going to do, as mentioned, and I think Alderwoman Dickman asked this question, the coordination of the volunteer resources, that has been difficult because it's difficult to communicate with our community members because there has been an outpouring of help from the community. And I think that answers one of your questions, is our community has come out and is all in trying to find Breacia as well. That has been my experience throughout this endeavor, is that the community has been here and wanting to help. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
So I just want, and let me say, be perfectly clear, I'm not talking about the investigative part. I'm fully aware that, details cannot slip into the media, in which we do create a frenzy. But what I told Corey yesterday, as well as the officer, there's an undercurrent in the African-American community, right? And what I try to do when I go out there is tamper those angers. But if we're not painting a picture that we're doing our best as a city, then all we're doing is fueling that fire.
Right.
So what I will hope is that we do a better job of painting a picture that we're doing the best that we can. And if we're not, how can we as a city council do our job to assist you so we can help the family that's grieving right now or going through a process? So.
Right. And so I would just say a couple things. So the city administrator and the communication team have been working with us throughout this. I would ask you and your leadership abilities to please help us with that. If you have questions, if you can help with that in any way, if there's another person or people that we need to communicate more one-on-one with rather than through Breacia's mom, we will do that as well. But I want to change that picture as well. If that image, if that perception is out there, which it obviously is, then I want to do my best to change that, to let people know what we are doing. And if there are things that any of you or the community thinks specifically that, hey, try this or do this better, then we need to hear about those as well.
That's all I really wanted to do. What I really want to do is let my members of the council know, what I've been doing in the past 72 hours, but to let the people and the audience members know about the perceptions and how can we best, as a city council, help you to address probably a lack of communication.
Yes.
But my job, once again, as one of the leaders in this community, is to aid and assist and provide resources in a time like this, because that family needs resources right now.
Absolutely. So I would, and maybe this is one thing, Alderman Peacock, is if you or any of you have any specific things when you hear a perception that we do need to address, the communications team, Corey, myself, our communications team, the mayor, all of you, we want that information so we can do that as best we can in a very strategic way as well.
Thank you, Chief.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Peacock, for your help and leadership on this. Appreciate it. Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Honor. First off, I'm a little surprised by Alderman Peacock's observations. It's not what I've seen over 23 years on the city council. We have a great police department. They do a phenomenal job. And I've been out with my son several days since this happened. Credit Island, South Concord, February. Now, there's so many people out there trying to do whatever they can to help this family out. So, let's, we'll work together on this, and please, our police department does a phenomenal job. And on the second.
Sir, please, thank you.
This is for the city administrator.
Sir, please, if you have a comment, we'd love to hear it up here.
Yeah, come on up.
During public comment. Thank you. Sir, thank you. Sir, thank you.
Go talk to him, thank you. Go talk to him.
Sir, please.
This is for the city administrator. You know, we,
Sir, thank you. Alderman Ambrose.
some of our budget challenges coming up. I know you've been planning on having a work session on that. Are we able to zero in a tentative time for that?
So I'll have Mallory kind of pop in on it. She's been going through both fiscal 20 and fiscal
But
21.
we can't ask anymore from Mallory. If you need some help, let me know.
But she can talk specifically about what we're looking at in the time frame.
Yep, so we are going through right now very, very closely with the FY 2021 budget. So our current budget that we just started here 2 weeks ago. We're looking at that with a fine-tooth comb. We have a budget team that's evaluating that. We actually have a series of recommendations that I will be bringing to our executive team meeting on Monday with a couple modifications that I think we need to make here early on. I will reiterate that I still believe that we have a very strong fiscal position. You've made a lot of really wise choices over the last several years that have put us in that spot. We're going to start the FY 22 budget process really within the next month. So departments are working on business plans as we speak. Those are out and being updated. We're going to start working on payroll projections, which, as you know, that's really our largest cost driver that we have. Once we see how that lands, we start moving forward with revenue projections. We're getting really good projections and good input from the state, especially on our road use tax fund. I'm very pleased with that. We'll have local option sales tax numbers in August. So that will be a good factor for us to look at, and then our other revenues will follow along. We don't expect a lot of disruption in property taxes, which that's a good thing. We don't want that. So I think I'll have a better idea for you for FY 22, what we're looking at in September at our budget kickoff meeting. So that's really where we're at right now. I would say our main focus as a budget team is currently looking at 21 and what modifications we need to make early on.
Yeah, and Mallory, thanks. We have a lot of hardworking taxpayers that have been struggling, and you know, it's important for the city to do everything we possibly can. So, you know, I would like to sit down on a work session sooner than later. I know you're working hard with your team, and I can't thank you enough for that. So let's keep that in mind. I'm sure all the other aldermen would like the opportunity to hear your concerns and give us the opportunity to share some of our ideas.
Sure.
Thanks, Mallory. And finally, I want to take an opportunity to thank Marla Miller from Public Works. She's done an incredible job of customer service dealing with the new internet company that's coming to town. There's been quite a few issues over the last 2 or 3 months, and she's just been outstanding addressing these issues, working with the company and the neighbors that have had issues. So I can't thank Marla enough. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Ambrose. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Any more? Well, I'm seeing Ms. Lee one more time. Okay, go ahead. Alderwoman.
Thank you very much. I just have a question on what the city is thinking about, and this is related to budget. We're going to be seeing a lot of potential evictions for lack of ability to pay rent, as well as lack of ability to pay mortgages as the COVID and the economic concerns carry on. So I think that needs to be part of our discussions of the budget as well, because as we start seeing that type of situation, it's going to affect our incoming money as well as create homelessness. So is there anyone that's able to address that quickly?
Not right now, Ms. Lee. We can talk to you. Go ahead, Ms. Spiegel. No, we'll talk with you. Yes. They're preparing,
Okay,
they're
thank you.
preparing the budget now, so. Are you good? Okay, hearing.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, carrying on, now we're moved to action items for discussion. Our first area is community development. Alderman Grip and Alderman Lee. Alderman Grip, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 3 items on the community development agenda this evening. The first is a second consideration ordinance for case REZ 20-05, being the request of Reverend Richard Hazlett to rezone 508 and 510 Marquette Street from R4C Single and Two Family Central Residential District to C1 Neighborhood Commercial District. Is there anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? Seeing no one, this item will move on. Item number 2 is a resolution approving case F20-06, being the request of IMEG for a final plat of Animal Family Vet Care Center First Edition on 2.19 acres, being a replat of Lot 1 of Brady 80 Industrial Park, 4th Edition, and land immediately to the north located at 6011 Brady Street. Plat to contain 1 industrial lot. Is there anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? Seeing no one, this item will move on. Item number 3 is a resolution approving case P20-01, being the request of Townsend Engineering for a preliminary plat of KC Kimberly Hills Edition on 8.57 acres, being a replat of Lot 2 of Westgate 13th Edition, located north of the West 37th Street and North Birchwood Avenue intersection. Preliminary plat contains 33 single-family lots. Is there anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? I do have one comment. Do we have somebody from staff to speak to this? Thank you, Bruce. So basically, when I was looking at the packet, the way I'm reading this is when it came in, I think it would be the west end of 38th Place was left open, and then there was a recommendation to put a circle there. And then the plat that's before us includes the circle. So my question is, the land to the west, I believe, there's a church or a house of worship there. Do they own that land? Basically, you're taking away ever connecting to Hillendale Road there. And did we consider that? What was the thought process behind it? That's what I'm after.
Bruce Berger with Community and Economic Development. Actually, I'm not sure, so I don't know if anybody from Public Works is here to be able to answer it here tonight. The developer, I think, actually is here. Yep. I don't want to necessarily put anybody on the spot, but they may be able to address what their plan is, if that would partially answer. Yeah, otherwise, we can get back to you next week.
Sure, and to be clear, I'm not opposing this. I think this is a good infill residential development. What I'm always curious about is, as we do these infill developments, the thought process by our staff and our planning and zoning, so that we're creating good street networks.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't know.
We can get back with you by next week, I think. With
Mr. Townsend, if you have a comment on it, I'd like to hear it. Otherwise, Bruce and Rich can help me out.
Hi, Chris Townsend with Townsend Engineering, Davenport. We did talk with Public Works about that. The geometry really doesn't work out that great on that end anyway. What we needed was a turnaround for the fire trucks and everything, garbage. So that ended up being our best method, simplest way to do it. And they still have access on that property to the west from the south, and plenty of ways to get around. So
okay,
they agreed with us.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I would ask that Alderwoman Lee set the agenda.
Thank you very much, Alderman Grip. I move that all 3 items on the community development agenda be moved to the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That concludes the community development agenda this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. The next area is public safety. Alderman Ambrose and Alderman Jobson will lead the discussion. Alderman Ambrose, please.
Thank you, Hunter. Before I open up the discussion, I want to take a moment of personal privilege. Last Wednesday, I requested on behalf of all the good people at Davenport that our mayor, our city administrator, and police chief reach out to the governor of the state of Iowa, the attorney general of the state of Iowa, and the chief judge of the Iowa Supreme Court. Since there's still been a lot of violent crime, but the most disturbing thing has been what's happened to this young lady. The city of Davenport, our community, has over 700 registered criminal sex offenders in our city.
Alderman Ambrose, please make it short.
So our governor, our attorney general, and our chief justice should be held accountable for what's going on in our great city. The 7th Judicial District opened up a halfway house prison on Main Street, and they have over 30% of the people in there are criminal sex offenders.
Alderman
And they
Ambrose.
continue to be put back in our community, our great neighborhoods.
I appreciate this, but petitions, communications, so
Yeah,
now we're on the
no,
public safety, so
I'm
please
the chair.
lead the agenda.
No, personal privilege, okay? We'll go into discussion.
Thank you.
The third consideration, an ordinance amending Schedule 11 of Chapter 10.96 entitled Resident Parking Only by adding Washington Lane along the east side in front of 1729 and 1731 Washington Lane. Our city attorney has reached out to could you give us an update on that, Tom?
Sure, Mr. Chair. I talked to the property owner who lives there and about the prospect of going to no parking for that spot, as that's easier for staff to administer. But he reported back that for rental purposes, he really needs resident-only parking there, and that's what he prefers.
All right, thank you, Tom. Anybody from the council?
Yes, Alderman Ambrose. Alderman Lee would like to talk.
Alderman Lee. Alderwoman Lee, excuse me.
That was basically my question. Has there been any movement on resolving this? And it sounds like from Mr. Warner that there has not. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else? The second item is the second consideration ordinance amending Schedule 14 of Chapter 10.96 entitled Intersection Traffic Signals by adding Veterans Memorial Parkway at Eastern Avenue. Alderwoman and another have requested to vote and adopt later on the agenda to public safety. So take that into consideration. Alderman Jobson. Anybody from the council?
Alderwoman McGinnis and Lee.
Alderwoman McGinnis, please.
Thank you. I had a question. Is there an imminent danger? We're on the second consideration. It's best to let these things sort of go through their course, I think. We have 3 considerations typically. Is there any rush or any imminent danger as to why on the second consideration we would vote on this? Thank you.
Alderwoman Lee, please.
Nicole was going to come up and answer.
I didn't know who it was behind the mask.
Nicole Gleason, Public Works. I had been on a conference call with Alderman Lee regarding other things last week, and she asked about this one specifically. Many people have started noting that with 53rd Street construction going on, it's not unusual now for cars to be piled up 15, 20 deep on Eastern, then blocking the subdivisions, trying to get back out onto Veterans Memorial. So the 53rd Street construction is kind of what bubbled this one up a little higher. So, yep, thanks.
Alderman Lee, please.
Yes, and thank you, Marion, for asking that question, because I don't particularly like making the public option shorter than normal. But because 53rd is under construction. The Veterans Memorial and Eastern is one of the two primary detours. Trying to make a left-hand turn from Veterans Memorial onto Eastern or from Eastern onto Veterans Memorial is really very dangerous because there's 2 lanes on Veterans Memorial. And at that point where Eastern intersects, the traffic is actually moving pretty quickly on Veterans Memorial. So I feel that it is very dangerous. I'm getting a lot of comments from my constituents, and I think this is important to get a temporary light up there. And I can't imagine that anyone would be against something like this for public safety. And then I talked to, of course, Ms. Gleason about how she felt about it. And I'm very concerned about the safety. It's a very dangerous intersection without a light. So that's why I'm asking for support for this to be able to be voted on this afternoon. And I do have a second. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman Lee. Alderman Peacock.
I think Alderwoman Lee just answered that last question. And so if I'm not mistaken, and you guys can educate me on this one here. So so the one goes through a third consideration, and if this is approved, this light would go up how long? I mean, how long before it goes into effect, the light be put up?
Brian Shad, Public Works. If this is passed, we'll go ahead and start reaching out to contractors to be able to install the signals. We have pieces of equipment out at Public Works, and what you'll see is temporary wooden poles strung between with cables that would hold up those temporary signals. So we can see that happen in the coming weeks.
Off the top of your head, and I can't recall, how long is that construction project on 53rd?
53rd will continue through this construction season and into next construction season.
That's all I have.
Alderman Dorman.
Alderman Dorman.
Thank you. This is probably a Clay question, I think, but could you just touch on, Clay, what roughly the costs are for this temporary one, and then explain like what longer term plans are for the area, and just remind us what was in the capital improvement plan?
Sure, Clay Mayor, Public Works. The long-term desire is to add another roundabout through being able to leverage public or city funding with state or federal grant funding, which we helped do as part of the roundabout at Jersey Ridge. So that's from a long-term perspective. This temporary light is Alderman Lee indicated, is needed because of the added traffic on Veterans. Right now, if the 53rd Street project wasn't going, it wouldn't meet those standards set by the United States Traffic Code, which is why we need to put those in there. As far as the cost of the temporary lights, I'll have to check, because some of the parts that we're using from our own existing inventory.
But it's a couple thousand, not a million.
It's fairly minimal compared to what a permanent solution would be. In general, probably $180,000 to $200,000 if we were putting a permanent structure up there, a typical lighted intersection.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Alderman Grip.
Alderman Grip.
Thank you, Alderman Ambrose. I just wanted to reiterate and emphasize what Alderwoman Lee said, that this is necessary due to the construction on 53rd, and her and I are on the same page that in general, we do not like suspending the rules and passing considerations unless there is a good reason for it. I think Alderwoman Lee went about this in the right way, and there is a good reason for it. Funny enough, just a day before the agenda came out, I had a group of people email me about this intersection saying it's dangerous, something needs to be done, when will it be done? I let them know that the roundabout was in the budget in a year or two, and they were happy with that. And then the packet came out, and I was able to call them back and say, and then on top of that, we're already putting in a temporary light to deal with the traffic. So I'm supportive of this, and thank you, Alderwoman Lee.
All right, it's good to have Alderman Group on board. Were they excited about the roundabout?
That's all, Alderman.
All right, thank you. Number 3 is a first consideration ordinance amending Schedule 13 of Chapter 10.96 entitled 7-ton truck restrictions by adding 59th Street from Main Street to 61st Street. Anybody, public, council? Okay, resolution approving various streets, lanes, and public grounds closures on the listed dates and times to hold outdoors events. The first one is Hope at the Brick House Block Party, 1431 Ripley Street, Friday, July 24th, 2020, 3 o'clock p.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday, August 28th, 2020, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Closure, Ripley Street between West 14th and West 15th Street. Anybody from the public? Okay, the next item, the Bow Arts Fund, they've canceled, so I'll ask for a motion to delete that. Motion to, all in favor? Opposed? All right. Number 5 is a motion approving the following noise variance requested for the listed dates and time. Tho Tran Wedding, 3804 West 46th Street, Saturday, September 6, 2020, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Outdoor music over 50 dB. Anybody from the public, the council? Okay, the next item is motion approving beer and liquor license. We won't go through that, but you can see them on our social media platform. Now to ask Alderman Jochen to set the agenda.
I make a motion that items 3, 4 with the notation of deletion for the Bow Arts Fund, number 5 and 6 all be placed on the consent agenda. I make a motion that numbers 1 and 2 be placed on the discussion agenda.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Ambrose. Next area is Public Works. Alderman Dunn and Alderman Dorman will lead the discussion. Alderman Dunn, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 12 items on the agenda this evening. Item number 1 is the first consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 16.28.050 entitled Improvement Sewers of the City of Davenport Municipal Code by amending Section 16.28.000, therefore relating to the city collecting compensation for televising services performed in the process of sanitary sewer acceptance. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 2 is a resolution accepting the Main Street Landing Phase 2 project completed by Hawkeye Paving Corporation of Bettendorf, Iowa. The project was completed with a final contract amount of $767,396.71. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council?
Alderman Lee. Alderwoman Lee.
Alderwoman Lee.
Thank you very much. Is this the final part of the flex lot? And if so, what is the total cost of the flex lot with this? And if not, what else needs to be done?
Alderman Lee, this is Clay. So this was the part that was primarily the installation of the paver system. That's part of the parking lot. Currently, the only outstanding item is the installation of lighting. That is had a pretty huge lead time. A large part of it was due to the COVID and manufacturing those lights. Those are supposed to be installed this fall. Once that's in place, everything according to that, what we like to call N5, will have been completed, and I can get you a total dollar figure on that later tomorrow.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay and Alderwoman Lee. Anyone else? Seeing on this item, we'll move on. Item number 3 is a resolution accepting the River Drive median removal Phase 2 project for Emery Construction Group LLC of Moline. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing on this item, we'll move on. Item number 4 is a resolution approving the specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the FY21 contract milling program. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 5 is a resolution approving updates to the transit system, including the following: reducing Saturday bus fare to 50 cents, improving Saturday service connections, offering on-demand Sunday service from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. to those with a 30-day pass traveling to employment and eliminating regular route Sunday service. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council?
Alderwoman Lee.
Alderwoman Lee.
I understand that there was an email from someone in the public on this. Is that something that needs to be read or addressed?
No, we don't do that anymore.
I would like some more information on this because there were some ideas brought up in that email, and I don't know enough about the transit. I'd like to move this to the discussion agenda.
Thank you, Alderwoman Lee. We'll make that suggestion. Anyone else? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 6 is a resolution accepting the West 76th Street Pavement Rehabilitation Project completed by Hawkeye Paving Corporation of Bettendorf, Iowa. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 7 is a resolution approving contract amendments 1 and 2 to the 1930s Interceptor Flow Diversion Project with Langland Construction of Rock Island, Illinois, in the amount of $137,000. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 8 is a resolution approving the contract for the Ridgeview Park ADA Access Improvements projects to Collins Concrete LTD of Buffalo, Iowa, in the amount of $99,977. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 9 is a resolution approving the contract for the Duck Creek Trail Resurfacing Division of Marquette Street project to Manus Incorporated, Eastern Iowa Division of Comanche, Iowa, in the amount of $152,217. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 10 is a resolution ordering preparation of detailed plans, specification, notice of hearing, notice to bidders, form of contract, and publication of the notice to bidders and notice of hearing covering the 2020 alley resurfacing program for alleys between West 16th Street and West 15th Street from Myrtle Street to 1521 Marquette Street, and the north-south from West 15th Street to West 16th Street, and the east-west alley between East River Drive and Wood Lane from Forest Road to the alley end. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Please step forward, give your name and address.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Yvonne from the 6th Ward, 2727 Wood Lane. I just wanted to add a little bit more information of a potential alternative to using the city. I took upon myself and had 3 bids brought up by individual companies, each of them being reputable, and I tried to get them to compare apples to apples as the bids to make them comparable to each other. And I have to say the least amount came significantly cheaper. They range from $17,000 down to $8,200. And in the bids, one of them didn't indicate that a particular thickness was needed, and he was the least amount of thickness, and that was not the cheapest bid. And the cheapest bid actually was from asphalt company, currently one of the primary ones used by a local construction, the Bush's Construction Company. So the materials used would be quality, not necessarily cheap, based on the amounts being charged for the alley being repaved. And I took it to where the 4 signatures that was given, that it would be divided amongst those individuals, and still giving them a significantly less amount to pay. It was less than 50% of their bills, each of them. And it removed the 3 other properties from that cost for each of those. So if that makes makes sense. Basically, I took the 3 properties, divided ours up equally, and dispersed it amongst the other 4 to do the entire alley and not have someone pay this and someone pay that percentage. But with that, I do have the bids here. I don't know if I shall give those to anybody in particular.
I will give that.
Right here, Mr. Cup, our deputy city clerk will take those.
I guess that's all I kind of wanted to add to that, to give maybe a potential alternative to be not only cost-effective for those who want it, but it would remove those who don't want it.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Council, Alderman Jobson.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. First, I am not in favor, speaking specifically for the alley off of Forest Road, I am not in favor of this project. When it first came to us in the public hearing a month or so ago, and the public had the ability to speak initially, was able to speak with those public, able to speak with staff, learning that there is an ability to perform this project under specifications less than what is involved in the alley project. That could be a significant cost to the city as well as to the taxpayers. And that's because this is an alley with very little traffic, has no heavy equipment on it, and the specifications as designed underneath the alley program is to hold that type of traffic with this, which this alley does not have. So as Ms. Wright gave to Brian, there are some abilities to do this cheaper and save the city and the taxpayers money. The other reason why I'm not supportive of this is the petition came through at a 4 yes and 3 no vote. There's 7 residences on this. However, in speaking with all 7 residents in this area that signed this petition, there was 1 yes vote that voted yes specifically because his assessed value is being paid by another yes vote. I asked him specifically if he was in favor of this alley, and he said he didn't care because his garage doesn't go on it, he doesn't use it at all, he didn't care. And I said, if you were to pay for this alley, your portion, would you vote yes? And he said no. And I said, to be clear, you are not in favor if you would have to pay. Yes. And so in my mind, he would be a no vote. That would be a 4 no, 3 yes. And so that's why I am ultimately not supportive. I will ask my fellow council members next week to vote no on this. And I also ask that this be placed on the discussion agenda for any further discussion next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Jobson. Alderman Dorman.
Thank you. This is probably, I'm guessing, a question for Brian and the city engineer. Could you maybe just go over the alley resurfacing program and why maybe we're in the scenario where this alley's on here versus the alternative that I thought was worked out with having maybe it done privately or not through the city, and how that kind of happened? And then is that still a possibility where it could be done privately, not through said program?
Actually, I think I can field this one, Mr. Chair. This is an alley that's very short. It serves 7 properties. Not all of them use it. And there are no city services that are using the alley. So we afforded them the option of building it to a lesser specification that would still make them happy for their residential use and pay for it outside of our system. But it has to do with so few residents are using it. It's a short alley and there are no city services, i.e. solid waste trucks or anything that are traveling on it.
So then did that alternative get shot down then, I guess? Is that why it's on? I can send it back over to Alderman Jobson.
Sorry, I did a poor job in explaining. I was trying to be succinct. Yes, so the petitioner has been notified of this. Multiple amounts of communication, emails, phone calls, in-person conversations since this has all started, saying, hey, you can do this much cheaper, take the city out of it, here's the opportunity in which to do it. There were a couple of the yes votes who didn't even want to hear about any potential alternative. And then there was data given to the petitioner about here's how you can be done, and action was not taken by the petitioner. So I see that as he was not willing to look at what alternatives could be. And so that's why we've come to this point, because the hope was that there would be some resolution to where this would never even need to come before the council. That's why we're here.
Other question then would be, is it possible with the alley program to charge only 4 and not 3, or does it have to be all 7?
We would have to charge everyone according to the state law.
And then last question, I'm assuming this is probably a next week thing, but if we want to vote no to part of this, but not all of it, do I do that today, tomorrow, or next week, or how do we split this out into 2?
What I would recommend is when you go to set the agenda, you would move everything but item 5 and the alley project in the 6th ward to the discussion agenda. And then we'll split it.
Okay, and
And
keep
then
the
the 4th
4th
ward
ward.
can stay on consent.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderman Dorman. Alderman Grip.
Thank you. So I do recognize that this is a unique situation because of the size of the alley, the fact that not all of the residents who are adjacent to it use it, and just the low number of residents that have to vote. Now, one conversation we've had for a long time, and pre-COVID, we were setting up a meeting to discuss this, trying to make it easier to get alleys done, not harder. It takes a long time for someone to petition and get the signatures and move forward with getting their alley redone. And then when they get to this point, and then the city council still votes it down, it makes it very difficult to get alleys resurfaced in our city. So I just think we need to take that into consideration, that there is a process. The gentleman went through the process, received the number of votes he needed. It is a long process, and once it gets to us, once we turn it down, right, we already have an issue getting alleys resurfaced. It's not going to get any better with that. So just a point of consideration.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. Alderwoman Lee.
I believe you answered my question with Alderman Dorman. It does seem it would be appropriate to separate these out. And I'm not sure how it works, but if you have a majority that says no, how does the state law cover that?
Well, this is a long and overly cumbersome process under the state code. And if this were to continue on, at some point, council would have to overrule the objections of the people who oppose it.
And would that be done at the meeting?
That would be further down the line.
So did that?
Okay. So the process is not very clear to me on what happens next on this one particular alley.
If this is voted down next week, it's over.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that it for you, Alderwoman Lee? Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Sorry. Attorney Warner, if you could, it's over, but we would come back, it couldn't come back for a year, is that correct?
I'd have to check the program to see what the time limit would be.
Okay, because maybe that would give the person who isn't talking about the private option a chance to rethink it.
Well, and with the private option, they can just do that themselves and all save money.
Thank you, Alderwoman McGinnis. Anyone else? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 11 is a motion approving the contract for the water pollution control plant secondary clarifier rehabilitation design and preparation of bid documents to HR Green in the amount of $51,000. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. And item number 12 is a motion approving the contract for the airport maintenance building repairs to Bush Construction Company of Davenport, Iowa, in the amount not to exceed $52,035. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. And Alderman Dorman, would you set the agenda for us, please?
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. I move to place item number 5 and the specific part that says the east-west alley between East River Drive and Wood Lane from Forest Road to Alley End on the discussion agenda. All other items, including the other half of item 10, to be on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Alderman Dorman. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. The agenda is set. It's back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Last area to discuss is finance. Alderman Condon and Alderman Peacock will lead that. Alderman Condon, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 2 items on finance this evening. Item number 1 is a first consideration, ordinance amending chapter 15.32 of the Davenport Municipal Code titled Uniform Fire Code to adopt the International Code Council's 2015 International Fire Code with amendments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this item? Anyone from council? Alderman Dunn.
Thank you. I just want to make sure with staff, we have had several meetings with the contractors, correct?
Jim Morse, Fire Marshal. Yes, we had 3 meetings with local contractors that various sprinkler companies, the builders, fire alarm contractors. We held 3 over the course of a couple months ago, just prior to the COVID.
And as a home builder and a junior firefighter, I feel uniquely qualified to address this. Thank you for having us to your push ceremony earlier this evening. My kids went to the moon over that. Change is difficult, and changes like this can be uniquely difficult because you know, the city plays a role in the construction industry more so than just about any industry. We don't tell the bankers how to bank or the doctors how to treat their patients. So sometimes they can be a vocal bunch, and we can be a slow to the party bunch. So I appreciate you having the first 3 meetings, and I'll just remind the construction industry that this is the beginning of the second half of that process, and if they have any concerns, to please contact us. Seeing no one else from council, that item will move on. Item number 2 is a resolution expressing the intent to institute proceedings to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement and to issue not to exceed $9 million sewer revenue bonds. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this item? Council? And that item will move on. Next, we have 3 items, which are purchases from $10,000 to $50,000. These are listed here for your information only. If you have any questions about them, let us know. And I'll ask Alderman Peacock to please set our agenda.
I move that all items be placed on the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that concludes finance. Thank you. Back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Condon. Next item is other ordinances, resolutions, and motions. And so we have one, but first we need to make, someone needs to make a motion for suspension of the rules so we can talk about it. There's a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Brian. On suspension of the rules.
Lee?
Yes.
Grip? Yes. Condon?
Yes.
Peacock?
Yes.
Dickman?
Yes.
Jobson?
Yes.
Ambrose? Dunn?
Yes.
Dorman?
Yes.
And McGinnis?
Yes.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Okay, so our rules are suspended, so now we can talk about second consideration, ordinance amending Schedule 11 of Chapter 10.96 entitled Intersection Traffic Signals by adding Veteran Memorial Parkway at Eastern Avenue. Is there any public with comment? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any comments from my colleagues? Okay. Second to approve, second and third consideration. Yes, thank you. Seeing none, Brian, please call the roll for approval.
Grip,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Peacock,
Yes.
Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson,
Yes.
Ambrose, Dunn,
Yes.
Dorman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
and Lee.
Yes, thank you.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Okay, that ordinance is adopted now. Next item, is there any public with business? If you have anything to say, please come to the podium, give your name, ward, or address. You'll have 5 minutes. Hearing and seeing none, is there any reports of city officials? Ms. Spiegel? Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We're adjourned.